Well, the updates keep on rolling in, and I have a very interesting match for you today using the updated Emerald Steel discard. The deck list is linked in the description with what is available on Pixelborn and on Dreamborn. But you can see here we've added some additions to the deck, and we've updated the images as well, so you can kind of see what's going on. We've got Cursed Merfolk and Ursula Deceiver in our hand. We've also added in Morph. I've already made a video on that as well, linked in the description. But we're going up against a very interesting Ruby Emerald deck, which I think is going to become a much better color pairing come Rise of the, or not Rise, geez, into the Inklands, because these cards have some very nice synergies that work together, and you're going to see my opponent playing a number of new cards as well. Now this footage is just a single match, so that's what the length of this video is, because this is a pretty good match and I wanted to really make sure that I got it out for you guys. So going second, establishing a Merfolk on turn 1. I think I'm still playing the 1-drop Flynn Rider, but I'm playing 3 Flynn Riders and maybe 4 Merfolk. The opponent drops an Ursula Deceiver of their own. Thankfully we don't have any songs, but they do gain the knowledge of what's in our hand. So we top deck a Cinderella Stout-Hearted, which I think I've cut from the deck since making this video, just because it's too expensive. But again, why not play more Floodborns with access to morph, right? Because your opponent doesn't know what you're going to drop on them usually. Is it going to be a Tinkerbell? Is it going to be a Jafar, a Cinderella, right? Who knows? That's the surprise factor of morph and why I think he's going to be a really good card in this format. But let's see how it shapes up. So turn 2, instead of going for Ursula of our own and gaining the hand knowledge, we opt to establish a Bucky, because I'm thinking turn 3 I can either play John or the Ursula here. But the opponent drops a, is that, I think, Lyle? Yeah, Lyle, which gives my Merfolk Reckless. So you can see the use of these new cards already. And this card is going to drain lore from me whenever the opponent's cards are banished. So I think this match is going to show you, at least what we see right now. Again, it's too early to tell, right? We're all getting hyped up, but the format might be a little bit slower. So I'm forced to crash my Merfolk into the Ursula. My opponent completely playing around the Merfolk ability there of having to challenge it in order to stop it from questing for 2, and then discarding a card. Now they drop a Prince Eric, and I think this is going to be the better super rare out of the Ruby cards. From set 1 and set 2, we've seen that Ruby has always had like one good super rare, like Aladdin in set 1, Lady Tremaine in set 2, and I think Eric is going to be that good super rare in set 3. Ariel so far doesn't really look too appealing to me, but again, who knows? I could be wrong. We'll see how things shape up. On turn 4, we play perfectly on curve, right? Turn 1 Merfolk, turn 2 Bucky, turn 3 John, and turn 4 Jafar. So I established a Jafar here in order to stop my opponent from questing, basically. And then off the Prince John, we're able to draw into a morph, so that looks really strong. And we're going to just pass turn. Now, unfortunately, this Eric has a very versatile ability in being able to just crash itself and then force a banish, but it cannot target the Bucky or the John because they are they have ward on them. So my opponent quests for 2 with Eric, which is wild, right? It also quests for 2, by the way. And they establish an Agrabah, which is a location that generates 2 lore at the start of the turn. And it's kind of weird locations. I think we need to see more cards that have abilities when they're at locations. Otherwise, this Agrabah is just generating 2 lore from my opponent. And it has 5 toughness, so it's going to take a little bit to get over. Hopefully, I can draw into a big Floodborn that I can use with that morph. But I'm thinking, is it worth crashing into this Eric? And I'm like, well, I kind of have to, because they're going to be gaining 2 lore from that location. Plus, Eric is questing for 2 lore, so I just have to trade the Jafar into the Eric. And yeah, at worst, Eric is a Cheshire Cat that takes out the card, usually that takes it out. And at best, Eric, you know, goes 2 for 1 or something. Because I banished one of the opponent's cards, the Lyle activates and reducing my lore by 1. And now I have to decide what I want to play out. And it's a little risky going for this Donald Duck, but I figured I wanted to get the last card out of the opponent's hand and just put something with a body on board, since my hand is relatively weak, right? I don't have anything big to deal with the opponent's board. And this is where you could definitely argue that I could have kept that Cinderella. So not keeping it there was probably a misplay. It's been a while since I played discard, so cut me a little bit of a break, but I probably should have inked something like the Ursula, knowing that I had a better curve to play. So my opponent gained 2 lore at the start of the turn. If you didn't catch that off the Agrabah, they quest with the Lyle and the Ursula, knowing full well that I can't really take these cards out with what I have on board right now. But seeing that the opponent has nothing in hand, I might be okay in trying to crash my John into something in order to just take out one of their questers here. So the opponent does end up drawing off of the Donald Duck, and so do we. And I think I'm going to establish a beast here. and force the discard and then get a draw off John. So while this card appears to be pretty strong here, right, look at the resource game comparatively, I am going to potentially lose out to the opponent just gaining all the lore off of this location and having bodies on board that I just can't deal with. So at this point, I'm not going to play the Ursula, obviously, because there's nothing in the opponent's hand. This doesn't really serve much of a purpose right now. They do have that Queen of Hearts on field. I'm a huge fan of that card, by the way, Sensing Weakness. And that's going to be able to draw them cards during their turn when they challenge. But I have to deal with this opponent's board. So my Donald Duck is actually going to opt to crash into the Ursula along with the Prince John. Because at this point, I'm thinking, well, they probably are going to keep an empty hand. I'll keep the Hypnotize just in case they do end up drawing a few cards and keeping something in their hand. But you can see me here really mulling over what's the best choice. I can't take out that location because it has 5 toughness, and I only have 4 challenging power on board, 1 from the Bucky and John, 1 each that is, and then 2 from the Donald. So I just opt to take out the Ursula. And again, I love the fact that there are more lore draining cards in this game. We definitely need that. So thank you, Ravensburger, for addressing that issue. There needs to be a way to slow down the game and stop your opponent from running away with it. And I think, and I mentioned this in my review video of the reveals, I think Lyle is a great card for that. So the opponent is going to opt to take out my Donald Duck, and I'm like, that's okay, because it's going to stop their draw as well. And I do have a Beast Tragic Hero now established. And are they going to do anything with this Lyle? It does only quest for 1, but again, they are gaining 2 lore at the start of every turn off of that Agrabah. And oh my goodness, my opponent is able to draw into a Queen of Hearts. I forget what that one's called. The small one, whatever the small one is. But they're going to be able to draw again off of the challenge there. And then they just dump their hand knowing full well that, you know, we likely have more discard effects. Or, you know, I still have the Bucky on field, so I can play a Floodborn and force him a discard. Unfortunately, we draw into, again, no big characters. No Tinkerbells yet. No more Cinderellas. I think I was playing 2 or 3 in this build at the moment. Oh, and one other thing I will say about this build, which is really nice, is that you can, like, when you're playing Emerald now, you can just avoid playing any of the like smaller shift targets if you want, because all you need is Morph. And with Bippity Boppity Boo, if you watch my first video outlining some of these new cards, I showed you that with Morph you can, like, Bippity Boppity Boo the Morph and the shift target back to your hand, replay the shift target, and then just have the Morph in your hand again to replay and use on another shift next turn. So I do throw my Beast into the Agrabah, but the opponent, I still can't take it out. The opponent still gains 2 lore, and they're up to 13 now. Now that they have nothing in hand, there's no consequence in taking out that Merfolk. So we basically just gained 2 lore off of the Merfolk questing, and then it got taken out for free. So you can see kind of how it's a little underwhelming. Thankfully, this Beast Tragic Hero is doing some work here. And I do have to worry a little bit about this Prince Eric gaining 2 lore, but I also have to, well, thankfully I drew into that Jafar, but I have to take out this Lyle because I can't just let them continue to quest. So the Beast is going to take out the Agrabah, finally getting that lore generating location off the board. I throw my Bucky into the Lyle here because I'm like, yeah, the opponent doesn't have a hand. This is totally fine. We're going to shift into the Jafar and finally take out the Lyle, which will not trigger the ability to make me lose lore because I banished itself and not another character. And then we top deck into another Beast Tragic Hero, which is huge here because the opponent's definitely going to take out one of them with the Eric. So that was a really good draw off of the Jafar there. Now that the opponent's in top deck mode, I just kind of have to hope that I can survive whatever they top deck. And unfortunately, they top deck this Talisman item, which allows them to draw a card whenever a character is challenged and banished. So they crash their Eric, get a 2-for-1 by being able to banish my Beast, and they draw a card off of the Talisman as well. Thankfully, they can't play it, so we draw into a Lucifer off of our second Beast Tragic Hero here. And with 8 ink, we're going to be able to play this Lucifer and the Benja, completely outing the opponent's board by discarding their hand, or outing all of their resources, their board and their hand, with the Lucifer and the Benja here. So Lucifer triggers the discard. Unfortunately, we don't have any Prince Johns. And it was a Milo, the new legendary for Emerald. And then we dropped the Benja. Still, like I was telling you guys in my budget Amethyst Steel video, I think Benja is going to continue to be one of the best cards in the game, just because more powerful items come out, Benja's value just goes up and up and up, right? The opponent top decks Array though, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, are you serious? I need to draw like one of my damage spells. I play 4 Smash, I play 3 Grab Your Swords. I just established more questing pressure on board, but this opponent is going to go to 16. I do have double Ring the Bell, so again, all I need is something to put damage on this Ray, and I should be okay. They top deck a Shere Khan, which I'm like, okay, that's like a free challenge and banish, which isn't great. And thankfully, we finally top deck a Tinkerbell here. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this. Unfortunately, it does cost 6 because I don't have the morph to shift it onto. So I absolutely have to drop this and then ring the bell away the ray. So I'm forced to ink the morph here because I think the second ring the bell might have some use, considering I can sing bippity boppity boo and get the Tinkerbell back to hand, recast it. So if the opponent does top deck like another threat to quest for game next turn, I can ring the bell that threat away. So that's why I opted to keep the two ring the bells and not ink them. So the Shere Khan is likely going to just challenge something to take it out and gain the lore, going to 17, and then whatever they top deck will... Oh yeah, there's no way they can close out the game now, right? Because we just quest for game next turn. So what am I saying? Yeah, they just end up scooping it up, so that's the match. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. I did update Pixelborn today, February 11th, I think it is, after work, or 12th, Monday night, and some new cards were added, so we're going to be testing that out. If you're interested in seeing more Floodborn, make sure you are subscribed. And yeah, on screen here is probably just the deck list I'm using. But yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up this video. Thank you again for watching. If you've made it this far, Quantum is out.